A very good morning, Team Zimbabwe, and welcome to Africa and Beyond Television Network. And this morning, let us talk about important matters. So, this morning, we need to take a look on the position of SADC regarding the elections in Zimbabwe. We have seen different narratives, people saying Nelson Chamisa has failed to convince SADC that there was no election in Zimbabwe. It's not Nelson Chamisa. The issue is not between Nelson Chamisa and SADC. The issue is about Zimbabwe and SADC. It's not a Mnangagwa issue. It's not a Chamisa issue. It's the issue of Zimbabwe versus SADC. Remember that Zimbabwe is made up of the state. There are three arms of state, which is the executive, parliament, and the judiciary. These three are key in terms of making sure that the Constitution of the Republic of Zimbabwe is upheld. The sovereignty of Zimbabwe derives from the Constitution, which means authority also derives from the Constitution. So for you to have authority over a sovereign Zimbabwe, you must make sure that you follow the Constitution. And that is the only way you can be recognized in the world. So these are simply sideshows. It's just that we have failed institutions across the world which have failed to hold accountable nations which are violating the principles of their constitutions. So let us talk about what Mr. Peter Makotose has actually explained in brief and well detailed. We have the executive, the president, was supposed to make sure that he upholds the constitution by simply making sure that elections are held freely and fairly. He failed to do that. We have the parliament. The role of parliament is an oversight role. They were supposed to make sure that elections are done freely, fairly, and credibly. They failed that. We have the judiciary. The judiciary is the last hope for the people of Zimbabwe, but it has been witch-doctored. That is the reason why you see the judiciary failing to uphold the constitution and failing to make sure that the executive holds the constitution. That is the reason why we have the Chief Justice, who must make sure that there is justice always. These people must not be partisan. These people must make sure that they follow the constitution to the letter. They failed. So ZANU-PF has tried to pin this issue and make this issue an issue between Nelson Chamisa and Idi Mnangagwa. That is a wrong perception. The actual issue is that this issue is between SADC and Zimbabwe, not SADC between Nelson Chamisa or Idi Mnangagwa. So what must happen is that there are processes and protocols which SADC must follow. Number one, the SEOM report came, and the SEOM report reported that there were no elections in Zimbabwe. What it means is that SADC was prompted to hold the extraordinary summits. They did it virtually. The ministers did it. The presidents or the heads of state did it twice. They actually met in Angola and deliberated on Zimbabwe. What was supposed to happen is that SADC elders were supposed to come to Zimbabwe and do the investigations, meet all stakeholders, and hear what happened. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission was supposed to explain, the opposition was supposed to explain, the ruling party was supposed to explain, the business community or all other stakeholders, the civil society, they were supposed to explain, but they failed. What it means is SADC must be sanctioning Zimbabwe and must be excluding Zimbabwe in its activities up until it resolves what was left hanging. So that is the protocol, that is the procedure which must be happening right now. So this is in brief the explanation by Mr. Peter Makotose to say it's not a decision which is taken by ZANU-PF or Mnangagwa. It's a decision which must be taken by SADC. The major question is, will SADC be able to deal with this matter? There are two issues right here at hand. SADC might ignore the SEOM report, the recommendations which were made by the heads of state when they met in Angola. They might say, okay, Ajnabasa, and they continue business as usual. But what are the problems and challenges? You might see civil unrest coming into Zimbabwe, or even a civil war coming into Zimbabwe. Then SADC would come to try and say, we are deploying forces to stop this. They won't be able to negotiate with anybody if such a situation comes. Why? It's because they failed to honor the principles and the protocols of SADC. So that alone is one of a very important issue which is being considered at SADC, to say, if we fail to deal with this matter now, it will be difficult for us to intervene in case our intervention is needed in the future. It will mean SADC will be powerless. For example, let us say or assume that the November 2017 events repeat themselves in Zimbabwe. Can SADC tell the people who will be behind such an activity to say, you have done wrong, what you have done is not constitutional? Will they be able to do so when the government which is there is unconstitutional itself? They won't be able to do that. So what it means is there will be chaos across. It will happen in Mozambique. What will SADC say? It will happen in Malawi. What will SADC say? It will happen in any other country. What will SADC say? Each and every country will say, you ignored about Zimbabwe's issue. Why us? Why now? Which means that will compromise SADC as an institution, and that will render it useless. But secondly, SADC can ignore, and they can benefit if something is not done within Zimbabwe. They can benefit. And they will be hanging on the thread to say, we have to face it, maybe when something happens in another country, and this is given. So you see that they would have set a bad precedent. But what is at stake is to understand that it seems as if SADC Secretariat is somehow compromised. In the past few days, we saw Charlton Wende coming on X saying that he just had a fruitful meeting with the SADC Executive Secretary. And the major question is, why was he having the meeting with the SADC Executive Secretary? He then said, I had a brief chat with him on the sidelines. He was surprised and concerned that some citizens of SADC believes that SADC can reorder an election in a member state. You know what? SADC did it in 2008. They came and forced the GNU between Robert Mugabe and Morgan Tsvangirai. Why? What is the difference now? What is the difference now? That is the major concern. So people like Charlton Wende, they will try to act as if they are clever, but they are not clever. No matter how SADC could try to evade on this one, the fact that Zimbabweans are peaceful and the Zimbabweans are hoping to have SADC intervene in this issue, they must not take that hope in vain. Because Zimbabweans can do anything. What will SADC say? How will SADC say we are now deploying troops because of chaos or violence which is in Zimbabwe, when they failed to deal with this matter when it was when the situation was still calm? At this moment in time, people are calm, but it doesn't mean that people are cowards. It doesn't mean that people cannot do otherwise. So even those in power, they understand that power is temporary. They have to ask Robert Mugabe and the G40 people that power does not last long, or does not last forever. So one day they will come, or they will need the assistance of SADC. They will scream. The major question is, what will SADC do if such a situation comes? How is SADC going to deal with that issue if it comes? Are they not rubber stamping illegalities? That is a very important issue. Will they be able to rein in other states when it comes to such a point? The major issue is the reason why ZANU-PF engineered the meeting between the group of Charlton Wende and the SADC Secretariat. The answer is simple. They wanted a different narrative to be sent to the people of Zimbabwe so as to minimize any chances of Zimbabweans uprising. That is the agenda right here. To try and discredit the opposition in Zimbabwe, to try and make it look like the opposition are crybabies, to try and rubber stamp the position of ZANU-PF Kuti, the SADC team which came to Zimbabwe was compromised. That is the reason why these people are meeting SADC executive. But what should we expect as the people of Zimbabwe? If SADC is to follow the protocols, there must be an election in Zimbabwe, and as soon as possible. But if SADC is to ignore the protocols, then they must await for a chaos crisis to loom in Zimbabwe so that they will intervene. Those are the only two possibilities. So one way or the other, SADC will be forced to intervene in the situation of Zimbabwe. But the major question is, will they be able to deal with this matter when it erupts into chaos? We do not know.